Hello everyone, good evening. Hope you can hear me. Okay, right. All right, let us start with today's session. So here in today's topic, I shall um, okay. So here in today's topic, we shall start with the if condition, I mean the conditional constructs in today's class. So basically in the previous class we were working on let's say the basic introduction. So we started with understanding what exactly is the C programming language. So it is the mother of all programming languages, which is always used to design most of the softwares, especially the embedded systems software. So whenever an embedded system software is to be designed, it is done with the help of this C programming language. Now, the reason why C has been extensively used is because of its efficiency in terms of time, also in terms of space. So the C programming language is going to be more efficient compared to any other programming languages. So either it is time, like the C programming language consumes very less time, and it also executes faster. Also, it utilizes very less space when it is being used. So because of that, the C programming language is the most extensively used programming languages. Yogita is asking, is the class being recorded? Yes, Yogita, the class gets recorded and you shall see it. Okay. When will the recording be available? So once your LMS, that is Moodle, is set, you shall get all of your recorded sessions. Okay. I can't receive the offer letter. Yesterday you gave a mail ID and I sent the mail to my query twice, but they can't reply. So actually, Mohit, there are thousands of people mailing. So please give us some time. So somebody from the team will make sure to reply you. If not immediately, at least in some time, they do reply. Okay. Then can I get the mail? I have query related the Moodle application used for the assignments and the project. I think for Moodle also you can text the same one, or maybe there is support@emergy.com. Okay, support@emergy.com for your LMS based issues. Attendance is considered based on the people whoever is attending. So from the attendees list, automatically the attendance is considered. And okay. So once the LMS is set, all of your recordings will be available there. So any issues, please reach out to the support team, or if possible, maybe by the end of this week or in the next week. So if necessary, then we shall have a quick things based on the quick meeting based on the LMS issues. So maybe in the next week we shall look into it and see if it is if anything is possible to consider it. Okay. So yes, let us continue. So technically, let us focus on the C module for today. So coming to the programming language, the C, which we have started studying from yesterday's class. So we are going to make use of the online compilers to have the C programs executed. So it is programmers or online GDB, any online compiler should be fine. So basically, if you look at the anatomy of the C programming language, we have the headers inclusion return at the very beginning. Then we have the main function. And after the main function is returned, we will have certain statements returned for the system to execute. And as a thanking nature, we are going to add a return 0 by the end of the main function. So here in the statements in the previous class, we saw how to declare variables of different types. Based on the type of the data we are going to deal with, we have got different types of data to be dealt. So if it is characters we want to store, we store it inside a character variable. If it is integers we want to store, we store it inside an integer variable. And we have float variable, double variable. Depending on the type of the data we shall be dealing with, we are going to consider the variable also. So after the variable is declared, the memory will be allocated and the value can be stored inside it. So once the variable is declared and memory is allocated, if you want, you can put the value of your choice by hard coding it, or if you want, you can read it from the user. If you want to read it from the user, you shall be doing it with the help of the scanf function. And if you want to print the values from the user, you shall be doing it with the help of printf function. Then in case of integer, if you require more memory or lesser memory, you do it with the help of different size modifiers. A short integer variable gives you 2 bytes. An integer gives you 4 bytes. A long integer gives you 4 or 8 bytes. A long integer gives you 8 or 16 bytes. And a long double gives you 12 or 16 bytes. Based on the size of the data, we are going to store the memory allocated. Okay, then after that, once the memory is allocated, you can place the value. Also, when it comes to the integers, you can also consider the sign modifiers. Sign modifiers are applicable for short integer, long integer. We have two sign modifiers. One is signed, the other one is unsigned. All the variables are by default signed, and some of the variables explicitly specified as unsigned will be declared as unsigned. In case of signed, you are going to consider either a positive number or a negative number stored. But in case of unsigned, you shall only be storing a positive number. All right, so let us begin the today's session. Coming to the today's topic, we have got to understand something called as conditional constructs. Conditional constructs are nothing but certain features of C here will let you perform the operation based on a specific condition. If a condition is satisfied, you want to take the action. And if the condition is not satisfied, you don't have to take the action. So that is something called as conditional constructs. Now coming to the conditional constructs, we have two types. One we call it as single iterational conditional construct. The other we have is multi-iterational conditional construct. So single iteration means you are going to perform the operation for only once. Multi-iteration means you are going to perform the operation for multiple times. Now, single iterations have two categories in it. I mean two types with it. One is if and its family, and the other one is switch case. And when it comes to the multi-iterational conditional constructs, they are in common called as loops, and we have three types in this. One is a while loop, second one is a do while loop, and the third one is a for loop. So we have three things. Today's class is based on this conditional construct. So single iterational conditional constructs, we have if and its family and the switch case. And in multi-iterational conditional constructs, we have while, do while, and for. Now, if you observe this, single iterational conditional constructs, these are about the data types. Single iterational conditional constructs, we have if and its family and the switch case. Under multi-iterational, we have the for loop, while loop, and the do while loop. Now, how to write a if condition and when to make use of an if condition. So if condition is used whenever you want to execute some set of statements based on a condition. Okay, to execute some set of statements based on the condition. So based on the condition you are going to deal with, you are writing some of the statements to be executed. So it is like this. Let's say you want to print good morning only if there is the number entered by the user as 5. Otherwise, you don't want that to happen. Okay. So that is a single iterational conditional construct where you make use of a if condition. You want to execute it only if the condition is true. So it's like this. If you write one condition, if the condition is true, whatever statements you have written inside it will be executed. If the condition is false, these statements will never get its turn for execution. And please remember, the statements you are going to write here will get to execute for only once. You cannot execute it for more than once. You get to execute it for only once. So this is single iterational conditional construct. Okay, because the statements are executed for only once. Now, if you observe, there is a flowchart also here. Now, if the condition is true, whatever code you have written inside it will be executed. If the condition is false, that code will not be executed. It continues to execute your rest of the instructions. On the right hand side here, there is a simple example. There is one integer variable called num1 with the value 2. Now tell me, will this statement get its turn for execution? Will this statement get its turn for execution? Okay, so my number is 2 here. Okay, 2 lesser than 5 has to be condition true. Because the condition is true, this statement get its turn for execution. Then coming out of the if condition, this is a normal generic statement which is not a part of any condition. So it has to execute casually. Okay, so if you look at this, let me go for an online compiler. Okay, so here I'm going to consider this example. I'll write one simple if condition. Before that, I should include the header file. The header file is stdio.h. I'm increasing the font. Okay, then after this, I will add a simple if condition. If before that, I'm going to take one integer variable called num with the value 5. Okay, so now here I'm checking for if number is lesser than 10, then I'm going to print these two messages. Whatever statements you want to execute based on the condition can be placed here. So I want to say good evening, and I also want to say that this number is less than 10. Okay, so number is less than 10. And also after this, I want the normal statement to be executed, maybe printf, thanks for attending, something like this I'm adding with a return 0. So this is my simple C program. Now that my condition is true, these two statements will get its turn for execution, and this printf will also execute. You can see here, sorry, spelling mistake. Okay. You can see here all the three messages are being printed. There is good evening, there is number less than 10, there is also thanks for attending. Now, if I change this to 15, the condition is false and the statement will not get its turn for execution. This condition is false. So, I should not enter into the if condition. Hence, my other statements means after line number 6, it directly jumps to line number 11 and thanks for attending should be printed. So I'm running. You can see there is only this one message which is being printed. So that is a simple if condition. Statements are executed if the condition is true and statements are not executed if the condition is false. Okay. Now, there is another condition called as if else. Now, if else is used when you have two set of statements to be executed. Okay, if you take if else condition, then to execute one set of statements if the condition is true, another set of statement if the condition is false. Okay, to execute one set of statement if the condition is true and another set of statements if the condition is false. Okay, so one set of statements to be executed if the condition is true, another set of statements to be executed if the condition is false. That is when you are going to make use of if else condition. Now the syntax is inside if you write one condition and if the condition is true, you will have, let's say, code 1 here executed, and if the condition is false, you will have code 2 executed. So based on the condition you have written, the corresponding code get its turn for execution. Now here I'm going to add one else block. Okay, and in the else block, let me add two messages. Good evening from else. Okay, and I'm also saying number is greater than 10 here. Okay, number is greater than 10. So now, if you look at this, what do you think will be the expected output? Okay, so this time my program is having the initial value as 15. So 15 less than 10 is condition false. It has to go to the else block and say good evening from the else block and also number is greater than 10. So there is an error. Okay, one extra parenthesis. I'm sorry for that. So I'm running. You can see there is good evening from the else block. Number is greater than 10 and thanks for attending. Okay. So if I have two messages, one set of messages to be executed if the condition is true. Another set of messages to be executed if the condition is false. Then we are going to consider the if else block. Okay. Now, let us consider one simple example. Let us say I want to decide among the two numbers which one is greater. Okay, the question is to check if num1, to find the greatest of two numbers, check the, or I would say find the greatest of two numbers. Can you tell me how to do this? I want to find the greatest of two numbers. Let's say I have two integer variables called num1 and num2. Okay. I should say which one among the two is greatest here. So what should be the condition and how am I supposed to approach this? Okay, now I have two statements to be executed. Either num1 is greater or num2 is greater. Okay, so I have two different statements to be executed, which I shall be approaching with the help of an if-else condition. If my num1 is greater than num2, okay, I'm going to say here that printf maybe num1 is greater. Okay, so based on the condition here, if this condition is true, I'll say num1 is greater. Now, to say that num2 is greater, do you think I need another condition? To say that num2 is greater, will I require another condition? Obviously, no. Okay, it is obvious if num1 is greater than num2 is condition false, it is very obvious that we don't have to check for another condition. So directly you can add one else block and you can decide and say here that num2 is greater than num2 is greater than num1, or let's say num2 is greater. That should be enough. Okay, so in order to find the greatest of two numbers, so I'm going to consider this. Now, I want to check if a number is positive or negative. Check if the number is positive or negative. How am I going to say if the number is positive or negative? To check if a number is positive or negative. Okay, so it is very simple that you have two set of statements. Okay, I have two set of statements to execute. One, I should say it is positive, or I should say it is negative. So for that, I shall make use of one simple condition. If my number is greater than 0, if my number is greater than 0, it is obvious that my number is a positive number. So here I would say my number is positive. Number is positive. Otherwise, I don't have to check and directly say that the number is negative. Else, the number is negative. Okay. Printf, here I'll say number is negative. Okay. Now what about 0? Is 0 a positive number or it is a negative number? What about 0? 0 a positive number or a negative number? Okay, most of you are saying it is a positive number. In fact, 0 is neither positive nor negative. Okay, correct. So Danya says it right. So, okay, Sonu also says it. It is not. Irfan also says it. So it is neither positive nor negative. Okay, 0 is a special number and it belongs to neither positive nor negative. Now, what happens in this case when 0 is the number? What happens in this case if 0 is the entered number? See, if the entered number is 0, 0 greater than 0 will be condition false. I will come to the else block to say that the number is negative. Okay. If you consider this approach, okay, let me put it here and take it this side. So if you consider, in fact, this approach, please remember in this case, it says that 0 is a negative number. Now, I have three different messages to print. One is to say that it is positive. Other is to say that it is negative. One more is to say that it is 0. I have three different messages to be printed. And do you think I can decide with a single condition? I have 3 different messages to be printed. And is it possible to do it with a single condition? Obviously, no. That is when I am going to require an if, else if, else. Okay. So this is going to be used when you have more number of statements to be executed with more number of conditions. Okay. Now, if the first condition is true, okay, here I would say, let me go for a simple example to check if number is positive or negative or 0. Okay, 3 things. I want to check if my number is positive or negative or 0. So that is when first I'll decide how do I say that my number is positive. If my number is greater than 0, then I'm going to say my number is positive. Okay. Then if my number is, let's say in the else block, I cannot decide because I have 2 more messages to take care of. I should say whether it is negative or 0. If not positive, I should say whether it is negative or 0. So I check for another condition. If number is less than 0, then my number is negative. Okay. If my number is less than 0, I shall say that my number is negative. Now, to say it is neither positive nor negative, to say it is 0, do I need another condition? To say it is 0, is it required for another condition? Obviously, no. Okay, so that is when you can add a simple else block to say that the number is 0. Okay, one more printf here saying that my number is 0. So this is how you are going to make use of an if else condition. A if condition is used whenever you have one set of statement to be executed based on the condition. If else is used when you have 2 set of statements to be executed. One if the condition is true, other if the condition is false. It's like this. You want to say if the student is pass or fail. Okay. You want to check if the student is pass or fail. Only 2 messages. Either he is pass or he is fail. So that is when I am going to make use of an if else condition. Then if I have to say the grade, let's say a student is he belongs to A grade, or he is in B grade, or he is in C grade, something like that. You want to decide. So that is when if else is required. Okay, so that is when you shall be able to correlate about the if else block. So to say if the student is pass, just to say pass. Okay, just to say pass. Otherwise, don't say anything. That is when you use an if condition. You want to say pass or fail. Okay, pass or fail. So that is when you're going to make use of if else condition. Then let's say you want to give grades. Okay, grades like A grade, B grade, C grades and all. So that is when you're going to make use of if else. Okay, in fact, you can add any number of else if blocks from your side. So taking you to this slide, in case of if else condition, if the condition is true, the statements are executed. If the condition is false, these set of statements are executed. You can look at the flow chart here. Condition is true, this code is executed. Condition is false, this code is executed. Then you step out of the condition and execute the rest of the instructions. Either it is true case executed or it is false case executed. Both of them can never get their turn for execution. So this is an if else block. Okay, so let me execute it to show you the output. This is my number. Okay, in fact, you can take the number from the user. If your like let's say two numbers are num1 and num2. In fact, you can take it from the user, num1 comma num2. So let's say you read it from the user, printf, or sorry, I just want to say it's positive or negative. So maybe I can say for only one number. Okay. Then here I will ask the user, printf, enter a number, enter an integer. Okay. Based on this user entered, so I'm going to read it with the help of scanf %d, and I store it into address of my number. Then here I'm going to check if my number is greater than 0, then I'm going to print a message, printf, number is positive. If it is not the case, I'm going to say that my number is negative. Okay. So in the else block, I'm going to say with a printf that my number is negative with a \n. Okay. So that is when the number is positive and the number is negative. So you can run. Here I'm asked to enter one integer. I entered 10. So it says number is positive. Again run and enter -25. You can see that the number is negative. Okay. Now similarly, if I want to say if the number is positive or negative or 0, one more if condition here, number is less than 0, negative. In the else block, I'm going to say printf that the number is 0. Okay. So that is with the else block. Now if you see, I entered 10, it's a positive number. Then I entered 20. You can see it's again positive. I enter -15. It is a negative number. I will enter 0 this time, and it is the number being 0. Do you understand this? Okay. What if you have more than 3 statements to print? Then it has to be more than one else if condition. You can add any number of else if condition. Okay. You can add any number of else if conditions. One more else if you want, you can add. One more else if you want, you can add. You can add any number of else if conditions of your choice. Okay. Right. So let us now move on to the next topic. Let us say somebody is asking you to find the largest of 3 numbers. Okay, largest of 3 numbers. Can you help me how to find this largest of 3 numbers? Okay, that is the question, to find the largest of 3 numbers. I have 3 messages to be printed. 3 numbers are there. There is num1, there is num2, there is num3. I have 3 numbers. I should either say num1 is greater, or I should say num2 is greater, or I should say num3 is greater. How do you think we can do this? What do you think is required to find the largest of 3 numbers? Do you think it is doable with the help of if, else, if, else? Okay. Now, most important, no, it is not doable with the help of if, else, if, else. Okay. That is because if I want to say that my num1 is greater, I want to check for 2 conditions. It should be greater than num2 and it should be greater than num3 also. Now it is doable in 2 things. Okay. One, you can make use of if, else, if, else. How? In the first case, if my num1 is greater than num2, can I conclude here only if this condition is true? Can I conclude and say that my num1 is greater here? Can I say num1 is greater here? Is this doable? Now, to decide that num1 is greater, I should make use of two conditions. I should make sure that it is greater than num2. It is also greater than num3. So that is when you have to make use of one logical and it is and. Okay. And num1 is greater than num3. Only then I can say that num1 is greater. If num1 is not greater, then I have to decide between num2 and num3. Now, else, if I now have to decide if num2 is greater, I should check num2 is greater than num3 and num2 is greater than num1 also. Num2 is greater than num1, num2 is greater than num3 also. That is when I can say num2 is greater. Okay, so here we can say that num2 is greater. If both of them are not, then obviously num3 is greater. Okay, so here we can say num3 is greater. This is one way of doing it with the help of a if else condition. There is one more way in which this program can be approached. Okay, I'll draw it like this. So I'm going to check if num1 is greater than num2. Okay, I'm checking if num1 is greater than num2. Now, this is going to have two cases. One is a true case, the other one is a false case. Okay, like this. I'm saying that it has two cases. One is a true case, the other one is a false case. Now, if the condition is true, which number obviously is not the greatest of two? If the condition here is true, which number is obviously not the greatest? Which number is eliminated? If this condition is true, which number is eliminated? If this condition is true, which number is eliminated? Obviously, num2 is eliminated. If num1 is greater than num2, obviously num2 is eliminated. So this is when the condition is true and this is when the condition is false. Now, if the condition is true, I should decide between num1 and num3. So I can check for num1 greater than num3. Now, if this condition is true, okay, if this condition is true, I will say that num1 is greater, otherwise num3 is greater. Okay, this condition is true. I'll say num1 is greater, otherwise I'll say num3 is greater. Here it is num1 and here it is num3. Okay, now if this condition is false, which one is ruled out from the largest of three numbers? This condition is false. Which one is ruled out from the largest? Num1 is ruled out. Okay, num1 is no longer the largest. I should decide between num2 and num3. So num2 is greater than num3. Okay, again, if this condition is true, num2 is greater, and if the condition is false, num3 is greater, like this. So condition is true, num2 is greater, and condition is false, num3 is greater. Now, how to write it or convert it into a program is, let me write it here. Okay, first one if condition. If num1 is greater than num2. I have a true case. I have a false case. Okay. This is for true. This is for false. So if num1 is greater than num2, I have a true case to be written here. Else, I have a false case to be written here. The true cases, I'm going to check again if num1 is greater than num3. If the condition is true, I'm going to say that num1 is greater. Okay. So I'm going to say num1 is greater here. Otherwise, I'm going to say, okay. So otherwise, I'm going to say here that num3 is greater. Okay. This is one if condition. Now the same I should write it in the else block also. Here, num1 is greater than num2 is false. I should check num2 is greater than num3. Condition is true, num2 is greater. Condition is false, num3 is greater. So the same I shall put it in the else block. Okay. So here I'm checking for num2 greater than num3. Condition true, num2 is greater. Condition is false, num3 is greater. Now, this way of writing an if condition, we call it as nested if. Writing one condition inside another, we call it as nested if. To find the largest of three numbers, either you can make use of if, else, if, else, or you can make use of a nested if condition. So let me execute this to show you the output. I should be reading the three numbers from the user. Num1, num2, num3. I will add one printf saying enter three integers. Enter three integers. So based on this, user enters the three integers. I shall read it with the help of %d, %d, %d. My first %d reads the integer into address of num1. My second %d reads the integer into address of num2. And my third %d reads the integer into address of num3. Then you can make use of any of this logic. First, let me run this logic to find the largest of three numbers. Okay. If num1 is greater than num2, num1 is largest. Then else, if num2 is greater than num1 and num2 is greater than num3, num2 is largest. Else, num3 is largest. Okay. Then I have a return 0. So let me run this to show you the output. Three integers 10, 20, 30. You can see num3 is largest. Again, three integers, let's say 15, 36, 26 and 9. Num2 is largest. Again, let's enter 89, 9 and 45. Num1 is largest. Either we can make use of this logic or we can make use of this logic also. This is with the help of nested if. Okay, I'm replacing it here. I'm running. Okay, enter three integers 10, 5, 3. Num1 is largest or num1 is greater. So again, I'm entering 5, 9, 2. Num2 is greatest. So let me enter 10, 5 and 19. You can see num3 is greatest. So this is how you decide among the three which one is the largest number. Either you can make use of an if-else condition or you can make use of a nested if condition. Did you understand about the if condition? Okay. If I have more than 7 numbers, how to get the greatest number? More than 7 numbers is like you have to make use of an array only. Okay, it is not feasible to do it with the help of if-else blocks. It is better to put it inside an array and find the largest. Condition inside the condition is using ma'am. Okay, ma'am, we need more memory allocation, not on this basis. All this is easily learned from online. We need more memory allocation. The way you're explaining is simply super. It would be easily understand it if you can teach memory allocation. See, first of all, Gopi Chand, our focus is to learn something which is very much necessary for the embedded systems design. So coming to the memory allocation, you hardly must have to know how the memory is allocated for your variables. How do you manage that memory efficiently? So for at this stage, in fact, I can only make you understand how to manage building a simple embedded system. In fact, learning C in 3 to 4 classes is not something easy. Okay. So our focus is to only focus on topics which are necessary for the basic embedded system to be designed. If you want to study more and more, in our course, actually, we study C for at least 3 months. That is how big the entire C is. So maybe you can expect more there, but not here at least. Okay. Then can we write percentage D, percentage D, percentage D without spaces in the scanf statement? Yes, you can, Charan. And it is not mandatory to add spaces between the format specifier. For example, we have to find the second largest number on this condition, what was to be used. To find the second largest, you should first find out the first largest number, then the second largest, then the third largest. You should keep a track of it. Okay, the second largest number should be greater than one number, smaller than the other number. So it is like finding a middle number. Okay, Manish is asking, yesterday I didn't join. Can you say what all the topics covered? Yesterday, Manish, we spoke about the data types, how to get the memory allocated for them, and how to print the value from that memory, how to get the values from that memory. Okay, then if we enter only 2 numbers, you have to enter 3 numbers. Unless you don't enter 3 numbers, your scanf will not let you go to the next statement. In the case, we can use arrays plus for loop. Yes, that is the case. What is the difference between array and string? Actually, Kajal, there is no difference between array and string. String is also an array. In fact, string is an array of characters, but it is a special array. Okay, it is not a common array, it's a special array. We loop in the array element by element in C starts from 0. Yes, we shall study about arrays also. Okay, what if the numbers are equal? Actually, here we are not considering the numbers are equal. Okay, we are not considering that condition. If we should have to enter 3 numbers, but any one only enter 2 numbers, so what is the output? See, as I said, you should enter 3 numbers, only then you shall move on to the next one. If you do not enter 3 numbers, then scanf will not take you to the next statements. Okay, Rajesh is asking how much knowledge of C we need for embedded system. For the basic embedded system, loops, arrays, pointers are much necessary. Okay, so Joel is asking what statements to use if there are 4. If there are 4, then I suggest to go for arrays. In fact, anything beyond 3, it is necessary to go for arrays. Okay, this is Ritishwaran asking, what if the input is 10, 10, 1? Okay, so if the input is 10, 10, 1, Okay, if you think of this logic, 10 is greater than 10 is false. It comes here. 10 is greater than 10 is also false. So it comes here and it will say num3 is greater. See, in this case, okay, or if you think of this case, 10 is greater than 10, false. You come here, 10 is greater than 1, true. It says num2 is greater. In this case, it says num2 greater. Here it says num3 is greater. Sorry. Yeah, so this is false. It will not check. This is also false. Yes, it is not checking. So yes, it says num3 is greater. So ideally, you are supposed to enter the elements which are not equal. 3 unique elements should be entered. So that is about if and its family. The next we have a switch case. Now, what is the switch cases? It is a replacement to the simple if else block. Okay, replacement to the simple if else block. But you can deal only with integers, but can work only with integers. Okay, you cannot deal with any type of data. You can work only with integers. So that is a switch case. Syntactically, when are you going to write a switch case? Okay, so I said you want to print a grade. Okay, I don't know how many of you people have done it. Let us try doing it. I shall first do it with the help of a if else block. Then I should do it with the help of a switch case. Now, whenever you have different messages to be printed, more than 2 messages to be printed, we choose a if else block. Let us say I want to print. I want to check if the number is 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or none. Okay, this is the question. You have to check if the number is 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. What do you think is required in this case? What do we require in this case? Is it a simple if else block enough? Okay. So a simple if else block is not enough this time. I'm going to make use of if else else block. You can add more number of else else block. Okay. Now let me show here. Let's say I have a number with me. If my number is equal to 10, I shall print a message saying maybe a printf number is 10. Number is 10. Okay. Now, if it is not the case, I should see if it is 20. Else, if number is equal to 20, I shall say that the number is 20 here. Okay. So I'm going to say number is 20. Now, if it is neither 10 nor 20, I should now decide if it is 30. So else, if number is equal to 30, I shall say that my number is 30. If it is neither 10 nor 20 nor 30, I should check for 40 also. So else, if my number is equal to 40, okay, I shall say number is 40. And one last, in the else block, I shall say it is none. Okay, I would say it is neither 10 nor 20 nor 30, nor 40. Okay, I'm giving this as a message. So this is the program. If number is equal to 10, number is 10. Number is equal to 20, print this message. Number is equal to 30, print this message. Number is equal to 40, print this message. Now, if it is none of these conditions satisfied, I'll get this message printed. Now, let's assume user entered number as 66. What is the output from this program? If the user entered number is 66, what is the output from this program? Obviously, it has to go to the else block. Okay. Somebody is asking, why are we using more number of if else block? Okay. More number of if else block because I have different messages to be printed. I should either check if it is 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or none. I have 5 different messages to be printed, which can only be decided based on 4 different conditions. So we are adding more number of if else blocks. Equal to is to check if that number is equal to the other number. Okay. Now my question is, okay, else block will be executed. Another question. How many conditions should it check to say that the number is neither 10 nor 20 nor 30 nor 40? How many conditions it should check to say this else block? Okay, it has to check for 4 different conditions. All the 4 conditions should be false. Only then it comes to the else block and says that it is neither of this. Now it is so much time consuming. Okay, first it comes here, it says that condition is false. Then it comes here, again it says condition is false. Then it comes here, again condition is false. It comes here, again condition false. Then it decides to print this. Now I have 4 conditions. After 4 conditions, you have an else block to execute. By chance, if I have 100 conditions, after all 100 conditions are false, you will get the else block executed. And that is too much of time consuming. Now this can be efficiently replaced with the help of a switch case. How to write a switch cases? I'm going to make use of switch keyword and I can write on what basis you want the switch to happen. I want to happen based on the user entered number. Now, I should tell what are things are you expecting from num. Okay, the things you are expecting from num. First case, I'm expecting a 10. Okay, if the case is 10, I'm going to print this message and come out. To come out, I'm going to make use of a keyword called break. To step out of the switch case, we make use of break. Now, I am also expecting, if not 10, I'm expecting case 20. If the case is 20, I can say that my number is 20 and I step out. Then, if the case is 30, okay, I can say that my number is 30 and I can step out. Similarly, I can do it for a case 40. Okay, I can say number is 40 here. And if it is none of this, I can add a default case to say that my number is neither 20 nor 30 nor 40 nor 50. Okay, you can say it like this. So that is how switch case is written. Now, why do you think switch case is more efficient compared to that of your if else block? The only reason behind that is whenever a switch case is written in your program, before your program get its turn for execution, a table gets created. Okay, and that table is to make sure that your switch case gets executed faster. Now what happens is, based on the user entered number, Your switch case will not check one case after the other. For example, if the user entered number is 20, directly switch case come to this line. If the user entered number is 40, directly switch case comes to this line. If the user entered number is not any of this, it directly comes to a default case. That is how fast the switch case is. And that is how the switch case is also built. Okay. The reason why switch case is preferred over an if else block is switch case is always faster. It gets executed more faster, but it can deal only with integers. You cannot take any other type of data when you are writing a switch case. Okay, so please remember this. Always switch case is faster than the if else block. Here is a switch case. Switch. You write one expression. Based on this expression, you expect the results which are written in the case labels. Okay. Now, if none of the cases, you can add a default case. Default case is like an else block. If case 1 is true, the code of that is executed, break comes out of the switch case. If case 2 is true, the code is executed, break comes out of the switch case. If none of this, it goes to the default case, the code is executed, steps out of the default case. So this is a simple example. We are reading the number from the user. If the number is 10, it prints the message you entered 10. And break will bring the control out of the switch case. Similarly, if the enter number is 20, it says you entered 20 and break will bring the control out of the switch case. Then there is a default also for try again. Okay, so that is about the switch case, which is more often used. So in fact, let me run this to show you the output. So I shall read the number from the user. Okay, so here I shall ask the user to enter one integer and I'm going to read it with the help of 1%d and store it inside address of num1. Okay, then I shall replace the logic here with the switch case. And after this, there is a return 0. I'm running. Okay, okay, this is num1. Okay, I'll write case of num1. I'm running, enter one integer, so it's 10. It says number is 10. You enter 20, it says number is 20. You enter 40, it says number is 40. You enter something other than these, like 66, it says neither 10 nor 20 nor 30 nor 40. Do you understand this? Okay, so one more important point what you can see here is to the last case. By the way, the order of the cases will not matter. In whichever order you want, you can write the cases. But the last case can be a default case, and to the default case, break is not mandatory. Even without break, you will anyways come out of the switch case. So it is not necessary to write the break to the last case. And default case is also not mandatory. If you want, you can skip writing the default case. So to the very last case, break is not mandatory. It is left to the user's choice. Okay, can we use switch case for less than or greater than problem? No, it is a simple if else block. So you don't need switch case for that. Okay. Then Saket is asking, Saket or Saket, where to watch the recorded sessions because I missed yesterday's session. So you will get it in LMS. Okay, the recorded session will be provided in LMS. Okay, then I have new questions. Can we use switch case for a positive, negative numbers? No, no, no. Switch case is only for integers. Okay. In fact, yes, you can check for positive or negative, but it is not efficient to use a switch case. You can use it only if you want to do it with the help of if else block. Anything you want to change with the if else block, you can do it with the help of a switch case. Okay. Then of moving on to the next, how do I get the access to the LMS? So you must reach out to the support team to get the access to the LMS. Okay, so I'm not sure what the issue is. Then Pranav is asking, can we also use characters like case A? Yes, that is possible. You can write case A like this. Okay, you can write case B like this. Now this is doable because in case of characters like this, all the characters will be given with one ASCII equivalent. Okay, any characters you take, it will be given with one ASCII equivalent. ASCII equivalent means some integer equivalent. For all the characters, you shall have some integer equivalent. So the integer equivalent for character A is 65. The integer equivalent for character B is 66, and so on. Okay. All of your characters will have one ASCII equivalent, integer equivalent. So here it shall be 65, 66 and all. See, if I enter 65, the case of A gets matched and the corresponding printf is being printed. If I enter 66, the case of B is matched and number is 20 is being printed. So writing the cases like this is doable. Okay, so that is about the switch case, and please have a LMS regarding session as soon as possible. Okay, I'll talk to the team and arrange it as early as possible. We'll see. Okay. If I use smaller case, then what is the ASCII? ASCII code will not be the same for lowercase. For lowercase A, it's 97. For uppercase A, it's for uppercase A, it's 65. Okay. Then ASCII for A is 65 to Z is 90. Correct. Can we use more cases? Yes, you can add any number of cases. Now, Parikha says characters need to be written in single quotes. Yes, all of your characters should be written in a pair of single quotes like this. It is mandatory to write your characters in single quotes. Why do we use break in case of switch case? Break is a special statement which is used to bring the control out of that line. So if I get this break executed from line number 11, I directly come to line number 20. Because I don't want my next of the statements to be bothered. So break is used to bring the control out of the case. Okay. In switch case, we can check the number and also check for alphabets. Yes, only integer values. So alphabets are allowed because all the alphabets will have an ASCII equivalent for it. Okay, Jayant is asking, are we starting with memory allocation, ma'am, as if arrays and strings memories allocation. Yes, yes, Jayant, we shall study arrays and strings going ahead. Okay, Lepakshi is asking, we have continue statement in C, right? So we have something called as continue also. But for that, we shall first continue with the loops now. So whenever you have certain statements to be executed for multiple times, we are going to make use of loops. Okay, loops are used to execute the statements for more than once continuously. So when you want to execute some statements for more than once continuously, you can make use of loop. Let's say, for example, I want to print hello. So I'm going to write it like this. Now I want to print it for 10 times. So what do I write? I copy this statement and write it for 10 times. Like this, I'm going to write it for 10 times. Because I want this message to be printed for 10 times, I'm going to write this message for 10 times like this. Then 9 and 10. Like this, I'm going to write the statement for 10 times. Now, will you do the same if I ask you to print this for 100 times? Will you do the same if I ask you to print this for 100 times? Obviously, no. But before that, there is Aditya asking, Ma'am, Namaste. There is no recording of the session available in LMS. Please provide the mail ID of the LMS team. If the LMS is set, we shall make sure to upload the recording by tomorrow. Okay, so which I shall be doing. I'll take care of it. By tomorrow, you shall get the recorded sessions for the next two classes. I mean, the yesterday's class and today's class. Okay, yes. So whenever you want these statements to be executed for multiple times, you are going to make use of loops. Now we have three loops. The first one is a while loop. A while loop is written like this. You write a condition. Okay, you write one condition. If the condition is true, the statements will be executed. Whatever statements you write will be executed. Okay. A while loop is called as entry controlled loop. Okay. A while loop is called as entry control loop because you will not be allowed to enter the loop until the condition is true. It is called as an entry control loop, and this is preferred to be used when you don't know how many times the loop should be running. When you exactly don't know how many times the loop is running, you can prefer a while loop. Okay, and this is the way how you write a while loop. Similarly, we have a do while loop. Do, then we write some statements, and here we are going to write one condition. Okay, and terminated by a semicolon. This is called as exit control loop. That is because you don't have to check for a condition to enter. If you observe here, there is no condition to enter. You get the statements executed for sure. Only if this condition is false, you can step out. So please remember, it is an exit control loop and you will only be able to exit if the condition is false. Okay, so this is an exit control loop. Let me show you how to print this for 10 times with the help of both of these loops. First, based on the number user enters, let me print the message. Okay, if user enters the number as 5, I will print the message for 5 times. If user enters the number as 10, I shall print the message for 10 times. So while, okay, to keep track of how many times I'm running the loop, I'll go for one integer variable called I with the value 0. While I is less than num, okay, I'm going to print the message here. Printf hello. Okay, maybe to show you how many times it is printing, let me go for percentage %d, and this percentage %d prints the value of I, or let me print I plus 1, and I want to increase the value of I. See what I'm trying to do here. My initial value of I is 0. Let us assume the number user entered is 5. I want the message to be printed for 5 times. For the first time, I is 0. So 0 less than 5 is condition true. Because the condition is true, you enter percentage %d prints the value of I plus 1, which is nothing but 1 dot hello. Hello will be printed. Next, I plus plus will increase the value of I to 1. It was 0. Now it is increased to 1. Then I again come back. The value of I is 1 here. 1 less than 5 is condition true. Because the condition is true, you enter into the while loop. I'm going to print this. Percentage %d prints the value of I plus 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2 dot hello is printed. Then I plus plus will increase the value of I from 1 to 2. Again, I check the condition. 2 less than 5, which is true. Because the condition is true, you enter into the while loop for another time. Percentage %d prints the value of I plus 1. So 3 dot hello is printed. Then I plus plus increases the value of I to 3. Next, I check for 3 less than 5, which is also true. So I enter into the while loop. 4 dot hello is printed. Then I plus plus will increase the value of I to 4. I come here. I check for 4 less than 5, which is true. You enter into the while loop. You print 5 dot hello. You increase the value of I to 5 here. Then I check for 5 less than 5. That is when condition is false and you step out of the while loop. I'm running. You can see I enter 5. So 5 times the hello is been printed. Okay, 5 times hello is printed. Anything you want to do it repeatedly for continuous number of times, you can have it placed inside a while. Now, how to do the same with the help of a do while loop is change this while and put it here. Now write a do here. That is how you change it with a do while loop. Okay. So in case of do while also it does the same job. First it prints, then increases the value, then checks for the condition. If the condition is true, it directly enters the loop. This condition is not checked here. Okay, it directly starts from 1. See, first printf percentage %d prints the value of I plus 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. Hello is printed. Then I plus plus will increase the value of I to 1. Then 1 less than num is checked. Condition is true. You again get back and print this. You keep getting back until the condition is true. Once the condition becomes false, you step out. So you can see here, I should terminate this with a semicolon. I'm running. Enter one integer, I enter 5. You can see hello has been printed for 5 times. Similarly, I enter 10. You can see the same message is printed for 10 times. Now, what do you think is the difference between a while loop and a do while loop? I'll explain about the for loop, don't worry. What do you think is the difference between a while loop and a do while loop? Starts from 0 and 1. No, that is not the actual difference. We can declare, why we declare I is equal to 0. We want the initial value of I to be 0. Okay, to keep track of how many times the loop is running, I took this I, and I wanted to initially start with 0. It should be given with some value, so I started with 0. Okay, in do while loop, firstly we print and then check the condition, correct? To execute the system at least once without worrying about the condition, we make use of a do while loop. That is correct. What Anusha says is right. In do while loop, firstly print and then check, correct? So that is what Himanshu says. In while condition, it checks first and then we print. And in do while loop, we check at the last. Okay, that is what Samisha says, right? Condition checking and statement execution is reverse for both. Okay. Now, the most important thing for you to remember is in while, it is possible that your statements may not get executed for even once. Let me put it in a while loop. Okay. See, I will put it in a while loop. Okay. And let's assume the number I have entered is 10. Okay. Let's say the number I have entered is -1. Okay, let's assume the number you have entered is -1. I have put a while condition. The number entered is -1. See, I run, I enter -1. The message is not even printed for once because at the first time itself condition is false. So you don't enter into the while loop itself. Okay, but if I replace it with a do while loop, okay, do here, then while here, terminated by a semicolon. If I run to the same -1 as input, see, I will get the message printed at least for once. See, at least for once the message is printed. That is the major difference between a while and a do while loop. Okay, the statements may not get executed even once. It is possible. Okay, the statements may not get executed even once. It is possible in while. But in case of do while, the statements will get executed at least once. Okay, the statement gets executed at least once. At least once. Okay, so that is what happens in case of a do while loop. In case of a do while loop, a statement, whatever you have written, will get executed at least once. In a while loop, statements are not executed even for once. Now, what happens in a for loop is, for loop is a kind of updated version of a while and a do while loop. Okay, in fact, it is an updated version of a while loop. You write one initialization here, then you write one condition here, and then we have the post evaluation expression here. Okay, and inside this, you are going to write the statements. Now, please remember how a for loop is written. The same I'm going to replace it with a for loop. Okay. This I also initialization, I'll do it inside my loop only. So like this, for I is equal to 0, I less than num, and I plus plus. Most of the statements I merged together here only. Percentage %d dot maybe hello with a new line, and percentage %d prints the value of I plus 1. Okay, see what happens in this case. Understand the flow, how the for loop is executed. The initial value of the for loop is I, right, return with 0. That is my first step. The value of I is given with 0. Then 0 less than num. Let's assume number is 5. So 0 less than 5 is condition true. My first condition is 0 less than 5, which is true. So here I will print 1.hello. Then I come to this state wherein post-evaluation expression, the value of I gets changed to 1. Then again I come for the condition. So here I'll check for 1 less than 5, which is true. I will enter and print 2.hello. Then again here it increases the value of I to 2. 2 less than num is condition true. Okay, 2 less than num or less than 5 is true. So 3.hello is printed. Similarly, 4.hello is printed and 5.hello is also printed. Once this condition becomes 5 less than 5, I step out of the for loop. If you look at the flow of how this is working, let me draw it here. This is my first step, condition check. If the condition is true, you enter into the statement and execute. After the statements are executed, you get back to check for the condition. Okay. And if the condition is false, you step out of the while loop. This is if the condition is false. Okay. Similarly, in case of do while loop, you enter the statement, you check for the condition. If the condition is true, you get back like this. Okay. If this condition is true, you are going to get back. If the condition is false, you step out and execute the rest of the instructions. Okay. Now, if you think of a for loop, the statements are done like this. This is your first step. From here, it goes to the second step, that is to check for the condition. If the condition is true, you enter and you execute the statements. Then it will go to the statement you have written here, that is post evaluation. From there, it again comes for the condition. Again, condition is true, it's a loop, it's a circle. Only if the condition is false, you step out like this. If the condition is false, you step out and write your rest of the statements. So that is a for loop. Okay. Now, if you see here, this is a for loop running for certain number of times. Okay. Then while checks the condition and go for the statement. Okay, one more iteration in do while. Are you able to understand why I plus 1? I plus 1 because the value of I is 0. If you want to print with 0 only, you can. I started printing from 1, so I'm printing I plus 1. If you want, print from 0 only, not a problem. Okay. Ma'am, please explain pre and post increment. Okay, I'll come to that. How we print a symbol pattern with the help of for loop. For a symbol pattern, you are going to require a nested for loop. Writing one loop inside the other is required for a pattern to be printed. Okay. Then pre and post increment. In fact, here it is not making any difference. You write plus plus I or you write I plus plus, both of them will increase the value of variable I by 1. So do not worry there. Okay. So whether you write plus plus I or I plus plus here in any of your loops, it is not making any difference. It is just increase the value of your variable I by 1. Okay. So the next thing, last thing, let me also teach you something called break and continue. So break is used whenever you want to step out of a loop or a switch case. For example, here, let me use break. If I is equal to 3, maybe I'm going to break. Okay. Now what this break does is, whenever it gets its turn for execution, you come out of the loop. Either it is in the while loop, or it is in the for loop, or it is in the do while loop. You step out of the loop if this condition is true. So breaks should be used either inside the switch case or inside the loop body. Okay. So break, if you see, should be used in loop or switch case. And this is used to step out. Okay. Used inside a loop to step out, used inside a switch case to step out. So if you observe in this example, when the value of I becomes 3, first when the value of I is 0, this message gets printed. When the value of I is 1, this message gets printed. When the value of I is 2, this message gets printed. When the value of I is 3, 3 less than 5 is true, you come and print this message. So 4.hello will be printed. But because the value of I is 3, 3 equal to 3, you step out. Break is executed, you step out. You see here, I enter 5, but I get only printed till 4. I enter, let's say 10 here. Even then, I will get printed only till 4. Because the moment I becomes 3, I am executing. I am stepping out. Okay. Similarly, if I make use of continue is to continue with the next step. Okay. Let me put this message after the if condition. Okay. If I put this message after the if condition like this, let's assume the value of number is 10 this time. Now, whenever I use continue, the statements written after that will be skipped for one time whenever this condition is true. See, when this condition is true, hello is printed. This condition is true, one more hello is printed. This condition is true, one more hello is printed. Sorry, yes, this condition is true, one more hello is printed. When the value of I is 3, 3 equal to 3 is true, continue is executed, continue will skip anything written after it and directly move to the next step here. So here it will be 4 less than 5. It moves to the next step. And here it prints 5.hello. Okay. See this? When continue is used, anything to be printed for 3 will be skipped. Okay. I'm entering 10. You can observe here 1 is there, 2 is there, 3 is there, but 4 is skipped. Okay. Because I'm printing I plus 1. If I print I only, it makes more sense. See, I enter 10. For 0 it is printed. For 1 it is printed. 2 it is printed. When the value of I is 3, continue got executed. So this statement got skipped and moved to the next statement. So 4 is printed, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is continue. And please remember, continue should be used only inside a loop. Used only inside loop. Okay. And please remember, when continue is used only inside the loop, okay. When continue is only used inside the loop, this is to skip and move to the next iteration. Okay, it is to skip and move to the next iteration. That is the use of continue. Break is used to step out. Continue is used to move to the next step. Okay, so who's this? Indu is asking, can you tell me how to get the recorded session? Don't worry, Indu. We will put it in the LMS. You can watch it later. Okay, Manish is saying continue is used to pass the program. Right, right. Okay. Then can you give an example for pattern? Okay. So maybe we shall do it in the next class. Right. So about the LMS, I'll check if it is doable. Okay, I'll check with somebody from the support team about the LMS orientation. So we shall look for it. Okay. Otherwise, this is it about today's session. So today we have studied about conditional constructs. So we finished both single iterational and multi-iterational. So single iteration has only if and its family and the switch case. Multi-iteration has while, do while, and for. And along with that, we also have studied break and continue. In the next class, we shall be moving on to some special operators, how to make use of the operators in C, like addition, subtraction, multiplication. But apart from that, we have something called as logical operators, bitwise operators, relational operators. Bitwise operators are a must for embedded systems design. So please attend tomorrow's class, tomorrow's session to study more about bitwise operators, because without bitwise operators, designing an embedded system or programming a microcontroller is highly impossible. So for tomorrow, we shall study the bitwise operators, all the operators in general, and we shall move on to pointers and functions also, if doable. Okay, so that is it for today's session. Hope the session was all clear. Thanks for attending today's session. We shall continue the class tomorrow. Thank you all and have a good evening. And I shall make sure to look for this LMS support. If it is doable, I shall do it as early as possible. Okay. Thank you all and have a great day.